Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Live with Littledata. I'm joining you here from a sunny location in Mallorca today, and I'm joined by Michael McBride from New York. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks. How are you?
Very good. Now, Michael, you run a great agency, Atelier, and we're here to talk a little bit about some of the tactics and successes you have with your customers. So perhaps just tell us a bit more about the agency and the kind of brands you work with.
Sure. Thanks. Happy to be here. I'm Michael McBride, CEO of Atelier Commerce. We're committed to revolutionizing the e-commerce space with innovative solutions that empower our businesses to thrive in a digital-first world. So we get into where we employ cutting-edge technology to streamline our operations, enhance the customer experience, and drive growth.
Excellent. And you're doing that, through a range of different channels, right? Google, Meta, Klaviyo, etc.
Right. Yeah. Each of our approaches is highly nuanced to actualize brands' goals, balance storytelling, overall business objectives cross channels. So that's really looking at things not from a silo perspective of email and SMS or paid ads or even a physical mail piece, but how to inform each of those channels as one and create a coherent story.
Very good. So let's talk a little bit about Klaviyo and the kind of obviously one of the main sort of email SMS marketing tools for larger brands out there. I guess the first question would be like, what are the typical? I mean, obviously, you work with brands with a huge different range of sophistications, presumably. But what are some of the tactics you would typically come in and see being successful in terms of uplifting their revenue from email and SMS?
Typically we do a ground up audit to ensure that everything's being, tracked properly, first and foremost, that product feeds are re-indexed and that they're appropriate and, not outdated. And then beyond that, we really look at kind of our core flows, which is, your abandons, your welcomes, looking at, where can we re-engage with that customer in their journey to, do like a kind of a replenishment order, cross sell, but how do all these strategies play in? And that's what we look at.
Right. And you talked obviously about abandoned cart flow is one of the major ones, and the one that Littledata is particularly powering. But what's the sort of, and you also talked earlier about the being able to segment those flows and audiences in Klaviyo as being key to getting really good results, low unsubscribes and better engagement. What have you seen about the challenges of doing segmentation in Klaviyo, or typically the blockers to be able to do that?
Oh, let's see. So we do, we triage with an abandoned transaction, abandoned cart, and abandoned browse. And so we kind of make sure those are all kind of playing nicely together, that we're not over emailing people like 80 times in the same day. And then, beyond that, looking at where, let's see, sorry, I lost my train of thought here. But yeah, so starting with those. Segmentation. So segmentation within Klaviyo gets to be a bit more challenging when we're dealing with like large SKU count providers or partners. And so what we do is we work on creating like a data point that we can mine. So is it a specific collection that might be hidden that we can utilize to best target, people with cross sells or other items, kind of within that realm. So whatever we need to do in order to create data point that we can work with is where we go.
Yeah. And you were saying typically like categorizing based on perhaps the products people are, segmenting based on the categories of products people browsed is obviously quite a good one in terms of like purchasing intent for a particular product category.
Right, exactly. And I mean, especially when you have multiple customer avatars within a business. So not just like a size, like a physical size, of an item, like let's say like a small petite, like plus or, typical women's brand. But when we're talking about different actual avatars where they're purchasing absolutely different types of products from a business like that. So it's imperative to be able to segment.
I think that's one of the things we found working with more brands with our Klaviyo integrations, that often the getting the right product category information into Klaviyo is not trivial. Often those yeah, you see you have the trigger set up, that's one thing, but do you have, I think Klaviyo calls them the dimensions within the trigger, you might call them properties of that event, which enable you to actually say what it was they're browsing. And that's one of the things we've tried to sort of major on, I think, is to make sure that all those sort of that ability to do that segmentation and split the flows is there, because as you know, it drives better results if it is.
Yeah, we found that just even creating our own product feeds based on each avatar and sending our abandons for like one specific brand that has these three distinct avatars, is that we create our own products suggestions versus relying on the AI,
Yeah.
and that's provided a boost.
And so you're saying, like, it's like Klaviyo theoretically has a sort of recommendation algorithm but you said you haven't found great success with that.
It's been mixed. It's worked with brands with smaller client catalogs, but product catalogs. But when we're dealing with like a 50, 60, 100,000 SKU count, it's
Yeah.
difficult to rely on it. So it's better that we kind of just, bridge the gap and help the AI along a little.
I guess the problem for the algorithm on that data set is that there's very few people in purchasing each individual product. It's a very sparse data set. It's not like there's sort of a great correlation between who you were and what you looked at.
Exactly.
And while we're talking of sort of Klaviyo AI, because obviously it was a big theme from their conference last week, was all the sort of clever features they're doing to try and embed AI within the product. Talking about kind of the signals for buying intent, being able to predict when someone or what someone would want to purchase. Again, have you played around with that? How have you found that to be?
We're hybridizing that with business knowledge from analytics platforms within our clients. So sometimes it could be very much accurate and appropriate. Sometimes it might be utilized in order to inform, but not necessarily to drive. So it may be that we're looking at what their prediction is, but maybe we want to space that out and give it a little more room to breathe in order to rein in some more full price sales without over discounting.
Got it. So it might be maybe in some cases too trigger happy, too willing to sort of fire discounts off to people who maybe don't need them.
Well, what we're really finding is that AI is a tool. It doesn't do our job for us. It's something to help provide additional insights. And so that's our level of reliance on it. It's another tool in our toolbox. It doesn't do our jobs for us, but it definitely can be used to inform and provide insight. But we'll definitely hybridize that with data from the business.
And actually, that sort of chimes with Klaviyo's own sort of view about AI. They had a great quote in the conference about humans with AI beat humans without AI. That's basically the point here, is you're trying to make your job as a sophisticated marketer quicker and easier, not necessarily replace your judgment of what's going to work.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. We find that it's a tool or a mid-step for us a lot of time, that it isn't like, there's no silver bullet. I hate to, break everybody, take that away from people, but there isn't a silver bullet, but there is something that can help us do our jobs better.
Yeah. And I think at the current state of AI, at least, there's a massive role for human creativity. You've got to sometimes be able to step in there and make a leap that the AI can't get to.
Yeah.
So how have you found the challenges? I mean, I think you're saying that you work with brands of different levels of data sophistication. Some of them have really good setup, some of them don't. How has that been challenging for you as trying to help them with performance? Are there examples perhaps where that's been limiting or?
Well, it's we're all about accuracy. So it's about attributing to the right channels so we can make more informed recommendations. So we invest a lot in our reporting. We definitely are recommending that our brands work with Littledata, because we're able to better bucket the revenue that comes in. I've seen millions in a 3-month period with one of our brands that is unbucketed, and they can't attribute for it. So what would be great to solve for is they add little data and they can attribute that data. So so for us, it's really crucial, especially when our brands start asking questions like, if Klaviyo says I made this much, and Attentive or Postscript say we made this much on these campaigns, and our paid ads agency says we made that, why is it more? Why is it more money than has in our cash drawer? So trying to illuminate that, and that's really been the impetus for our partnership with Littledata.
Fantastic. And I think you've obviously, we're talking about getting the accurate data into Google Analytics, which is obviously hugely important in terms of seeing attribution and channel split. But also you've seen results for, but we take it channel by channel. I mean, with Klaviyo, I think you're saying, obviously recently installed, but seeing some great results for a couple of brands.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a tool for us to boost, I mean, our efforts, across all channels. However, Klaviyo alone for one of our brands, has seen at least like a 30% additional boon of revenue in their abandoned flows.
Yeah, which is significant, right? Because that's one of their biggest flows. So typically, yeah, we're seeing brands see like a 2 to 5% uplift in that overall Klaviyo revenue,
Mhm.
which you say is pretty consistent with 30-40% uplift in the abandoned flows.
Right.
And what about for Meta? What have been the big impacts of sending accurate data via their conversions API?
Well, definitely having accurate data. I mean, because that was one of the wildest, reporting fiascos between what Meta said they were, converting and what our clients were actually seeing. So seeing much more harmony between those two has been great. And then also with the Meta, integration, being able to better target and better um, attribute, sales across that channel.
Yeah, it's interesting you say it's kind of so it's wild dealing with the very different numbers across platforms. You say if you just spend waste a lot of time trying to reconcile why you got $100 over here but only got $80 over here.
Yeah.
I think that's part of one of our main value props is actually stop wasting time on kind of reconciliation and just get it to be accurate in one hit.
Yeah, so that's why, I mean, we dedicate quite a bit of time to reporting. So I mean, we report out of GA4 and kind of do our best to create like a single source of truth, and that's really been crucial to better, longer relationships. Where it's really difficult to trust, be in a relationship and trust that you're being told something accurate when everything is not accurate, and your numbers are just not what they're saying they are, and everyone's over saying they're doing this. Your email marketing team saying this, your paid ads team saying they're doing this, and
Yeah.
it's just hard to have the clarity.
And we try and split up. I mean, accuracy is we try and split up between like the revenue accuracy is something we can solve 100% for. Like we can make sure that if you have you do $100,000 in Shopify, you're going to see $100,000 in Google Analytics, see $100,000 in Meta. But the attribution bit is always a bit more subjective. Like there isn't a true number there, and I think that's what a lot of brands will struggle with. Indeed, some of the times when we've had people turn a little data, they're like, well, hang on, now emails jump from or drop from 15% to 12%. I'm sure it's 15%, but I'm like, well, you got used to it being that way in your previous reporting. Like that was
Yeah,
your conceived idea that it was this amount of your revenue, but that really depends how you measure it. Like
it does. Even within GA4, you're looking at either your session data or you're looking at their source medium like
right,
advertising report data, and so that's one of the challenges we're currently working to solve for, which is like how to show the best, tell the best story for our brands. And so they're really taking their, specific, like we call them the big bucket numbers out of the advertising report, but then relying on session data, and it's inconsistent. So we're also working to solve that for our brands from a reporting perspective. It's nuts, breaks my brain.
well, on the subject of reporting, I mean, I guess that that I was listening to another podcast today. It was interesting talking about kind of how obviously a lot of brands have gone, J4, it's too complicated. Like I'm going to go and use a Triple Whale or a Northbeam or a Polar Analytics or whatever they choose, which are all effectively they're out of the box reporting tools, but they are effectively black boxes. You
Yeah.
connect them up to your store, and there's no they just provide you reports. There's no sort of configuration within there, or minimal.
Yeah.
What's your kind of view on those tools, where they fit in versus either looking at the
Okay.
meta ads or whatever directly versus GA4?
They're beautiful. They're nice and shiny. They're great interfaces. They're exceptionally well designed. It's, however, difficult for us as marketers to work with siloed data. So our goal here is transparency and just creating as much accuracy, like I say, as possible. Otherwise, we're just going to have these roundabout conversations with brands where they end up being, what's it called? Um, where you just kind of paralyzed, analysis paralysis. And
Mm-hmm.
because over here we're seeing this, over here we're seeing this, show us which way is up, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what.
yeah. In a way, I think that's exactly the way brands do get sucked into these tools because it promises them the illusion of certainty. Like they're going to go in there and they're not
Yeah,
going to have to question the numbers.
yeah,
But obviously that comes with a massive downside, which is that it is an illusion and certainty is it may be certain, but it may be certainly wrong. Um, and yeah, but do you think what's your view kind of where the market's going to go? Do you think do you think those kind of products are to stay, or do you think a lot of brands might go back and say, do you know what, maybe Google Analytics wasn't so bad after all, and it does basically the same thing, but
yeah. I
bit less
mean,
shiny.
yeah, everybody's gonna, choose their own path. It's just what is the best solution for them, and that's kind of where we'll advocate. But um, just even on our team to like tell our, oh, you have to go log into this to view that, but it's not going to be the same in GA4, and it's not going to be the same in the native platform. Just having yet another, adding another piece of the puzzle is just overcomplicates things. So
Yeah, fair enough. Now, you were saying something standing earlier that a lot of the even big brands you work with have pretty bad kind of on-site conversion problems, pretty bad errors on the landing page and stuff. Can you talk about some of the kind of common problems you see? And
all right. Well, we like to have the difficult conversations, not the fun conversations. So if your site has a poor experience and we're not your dev agency or paid ads agency, we're still going to let you know because
mm,
it affects your bottom line, it affects our performance. So if you have redirect loops, broken pages, broken images, we're going to share that with you in a positive and team building from a perspective, because a higher tide lifts all boats. So we need to share our perspective in that regard in order to help elevate the business overall.
and what are the sort of um, why do you think that is? Just that there hasn't been coordination between the paid ads and the kind of on-site stuff previously?
So there seems to be a delta between whose job is what. Um, is it, your paid agency is just driving your paid traffic, and a lot of brands don't have an organic agency, and their dev agency is really more of a fix it guy, just
Mm,
like a
mm,
ticket taker will just, you tell us
yeah,
something's broken, we'll fix it.
yeah,
And then you have your e-commerce team, and they're putting in products and doing the best they can in in functioning, but they don't have this additional viewpoint of, if your site's health and your site's experience is poor, you're actually going to suffer across every single channel. So that's
right.
email, SMS, paid, organic. So why not? Like I don't understand why it's the last thought for so many. If if any of our
Yeah,
brands are doing paid, or they're doing email and SMS, or even just a retainer with us, we share that and we help champion. So
I think the shocking fact, we've seen this for some of our clients, is that there's still quite a lot of brands who are still basically, buying traffic. They're not actually targeting on acquisition, on actual, purchasing. They're still basically targeting on overall landing page volumes. And obviously, if you do that, then skewed incentives because, it doesn't really matter what the quality of the traffic is, as long as you can show your big numbers. But as soon as you actually have to care about driving actual sales, then you should care about the stuff that happens post click and on the page, because it's a killer for the overall effectiveness.
well, yeah, we find with our approach that of like a more holistic scenario that there's always an uplift. We've never taken on it, and seen a downturn. It's just, it's great to be a part of, a positive change. I don't know understand why it's so overlooked. It's not a fun topic, and paid
Yeah.
agencies don't get paid for it. So
No, and I think it's really interesting actually that, as you say, that perhaps with the missing voice is the kind of SEO organic expert, because you say for that, it's an absolute killer. I mean, Google's ranking algorithms has moved strongly to kind of on-site performance. So if you get a short click, if the customer clicks on your link and comes back after a short time because the page is broken, then you're going to go way down the rankings. And perhaps that's just, perhaps it's more obvious if you're trying to optimize organic search when you have these issues.
I try to explain it, as a multiplier. So it's like if you're this company is willing to spend $2 a click and you're willing to spend, one, but their site is like a 3, but yours is a 5, like you're actually gonna, or like whatever, you're gonna outrank them in some regard with,
Yeah.
as it relates to your experience being great, because your experience starts at who you're targeting. It gets into the ads, it gets into the landing page experience, and it gets the rest of their behaviors. And so without that perspective, without that being shared with brands, they're not going to win.
Yeah, absolutely right. As you say, bad. You can pay all the dollars you want, but if ultimately you're sending them to a bad experience, you're gonna get penalized.
Yeah.
Okay, a final question, bit of a curveball to throw in there. What kind of you've been working with the data for some time now. What would you love to see us do next as a product, as a company? What are the sort of other problems do you see in your world that you'd love us to solve for?
Other problems in my world. Oh man, this is on the spot. It's been great really seeing, the additional improvements across all platforms that you're supporting now. I would say maybe another NEST for us, because they do
Yeah,
have some others that we're
an attentive
fond of.
or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
that's the direction we're going in as a company. I mean, I think what we've seen with Klaviyo is just that it's almost exactly the same product, the same infrastructure, the same data pipeline we need to send that into Klaviyo versus Google Analytics. But the difference is it's much easier for brands to justify the value. So if you can put a kind of dollar number and you say, hey, look, this flow is giving you 30% extra, really easy to say. And by the way, it also really helps with Klaviyo kind of brand the events. So you can kind of step into the Klaviyo account, it says, powered by Littledata, effectively, or added to cart from Littledata.
yeah.
The problem we've always had with GA4 is that if I go in there as an analyst, I might think, hey, this is a great setup, but I've no idea Littledata is powering it. Nowhere in Google Analytics does it say Littledata is bringing this in. Maybe in some of the custom dimensions, but you have to be sort of super in the details. And so I think that's the massive advantage we have when it comes to pushing data into ESPs and those sort of tools, is that it's much more obvious to brand what we're doing. It's much more transparent, and I think that's helpful for our business.
Yeah, that's great. And it's like it is like you say, doesn't get you much notoriety as it relates to having a shiny, flashy interface that somebody's getting all their information out. But being a high value provider isn't always glorious.
It isn't glorious, but you do need to be known. Someone needs to know what you're doing, and I think that's the thing. Like, we've always aspired. In fact, that's been part of our guiding kind of company strategy, is this kind of powered by Littledata idea that under the hood we're driving the performance, but you do need, it's kind of like you still need to have a brand, and people still need to know that it's you that's powering it.
Right. Yeah. So that would definitely be a good next step for you guys.
Way to go. Awesome. Well, it's been a really useful chat. Thank you very much for joining me. The rain in upstate New York gets better, and look forward to seeing you soon.